welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Taurus, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of August 2023. I hope you're well. In a shocking turn of events that literally no one saw coming, I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. I am of course being sarcastic because this deck's come out for everyone. It's come out for pretty much all of the monthly readings and definitely all of the personal readings that I've been doing so far. So I wasn't really surprised when it wanted to jump out. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. That's the first link in the description box. The second link in the description box is to my private community. That's the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. You can get access to all of the extended content for no extra cost. We are running classes over there and you can hang out with a truly extraordinary group of people. So if that sounds like your bag, you know what to do. So, Taurus, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Can I have 3 cards for you, Taurus, please? Ooh. We have the Devil as your first card in your recent past. Don't worry about that. I'm not worried. Tell me about current energy, please. Thank you. We have the Ace of Cups. What's coming towards Taurus, please? 5 of Cups in reverse. Excuse me. Got 2 cards that have fallen out to the side here, and they are the Queen of Swords and the 9 of Pentacles. And do you know what? I feel like, actually, I'm just going to leave them there. We're not going to read them as part of the main cards, but I think they do add an interesting dimension over the top of what we're looking at. We have the Star card at the bottom of the deck there. That's the card of Aquarius. It can speak variously to profound healing, actually, and we're certainly seeing some sort of process going on here. It can also speak to connection, but it is about the future and our hopes and our goals and our dreams, aspirations, if you will, for the future. And I love to see it here on the far side of whatever it is that's gone down here for you. There's been some funky energy around in the last couple of weeks. I have noticed. I've noticed it in my clients as well. I don't feel like there's anything bad going on, but what I do feel like is there's some really profound insights coming up for people in terms of their own shadow, for sure, and I've actually got a video coming out on that fairly soon. And I wonder if this is part of what we can expect to see a rise of over the next year and a half. Like, I feel really strongly that it is. It's going to be people dealing with their shadows personally and collectively. And to that end, I feel like you kind of got the jump on everyone here, Taurus, because August is the process of releasing and processing for you. Now, you might be bored to death of this kind of work, but it's not really going anywhere. And so my advice is really just to strap into it. I don't think that you're having a hard time here in August at all. I feel like it's actually characterized for you by gentle insights that go hand in hand with a purification of your energy. It's like, oh, okay, I see this about myself and I understand this. I'm just going to let that go because it's not important. You feel like you're taking a considerable, a few steps to cover a considerable distance here, because we go from the Devil to the Star. We're actually completely avoiding the Tower in this situation here. And if that isn't, if the lesson of the Tower is not, pay attention to what needs to be released, what needs to be let go, so I don't have to kick the shit out of you later on, I am being the Tower in this case, then I don't know what is. But anyway, let's get some cards out on the table and get some clarifiers here. Tell me about the Devil, please. We have the 3 of Pentacles. And we have the 3 of Swords. Interesting. Tell me about the 8 of Cups, please. We have the 6 of Wands. And we have the 2 of Cups. Ooh. Tell me about the 5 of Cups in reverse, please. Why is this here for Taurus? We have the Emperor. Lovely Aries energy. And Three of Wands. This is wonderful. I really, really like this. You know, before we even start digging into the meanings of the cards, and I just want to point out that again, the Eight of Cups is putting in an appearance here. I'm going to try and put these all where you can see them. We've got threes appearing everywhere. Now for me, sorry, I've got a recovering chicken sitting in this room. She's been sharing the room with me for a couple of weeks now, and I did a Reiki session this afternoon on Circle, and the chicken's got all exuberant, literally, since that session happened, and now she's making more noise than she has done. So if I keep looking over there, it's because I've got a little chicken who's just sitting in a box quietly, or had been quietly up until this point. Anyway, the threes are kind of a way of externalizing a sort of energy, but I think it's with regard to understanding your process here, at least anyway, in what leads to that. But we have movement here, and it's profound movement. It's my dog video bombing as well. It's just all the animals here today, isn't it? Right. So we start off with me losing my selenite, which happens more frequently than I care to admit. There it is. So we start off with the devil. Now, I don't feel like this is, even despite the presence of the Three of Swords, I do not feel like this is some new energy that has kind of hit you, a new way for you to be injured or wounded. More, it is actually the state of realizing where your devil operates, right? Where that energy that keeps you stuck and trapped and restricted, the things that hold you back, where that actually comes from in you. Because as we, as you're no doubt aware, this always has an originating point in you. And often it's in places where we're complacent, or more often it's in the places that we don't want to look about things. We're like, I know it's there, but I don't really want to go near it because I know that there are lots of things in there that hurt. But what we know to be true about the devil is that he has no power of his own save that which you give him. And we very rarely go, oh, hey, devil, let me feed you all of my life essence. More, it's about the avoidance of dealing with things. And so I love the fact that he's showing up here and he's really stark and he's vivid. I mean, look at the way that his colours are dominating the reading here. It's fiery. It's red. It's danger. We understand what these things mean. But we've got the Three of Pentacles and we've got the Three of Swords appearing here together. It feels to me like it's a contemplation of where your pain has resided, how it is that you are still feeling it in one way or another. And maybe we might pull another card or so to have a look at that. But the Three of Pentacles is quite an interesting card here because it's got a subtler feel to how it usually comes across. When we see the Three of Pentacles, we're normally talking about cooperation and collaboration and really obvious things about how we build stuff. And more specifically, who it is that we choose to build stuff with, right? What is our vision? What is our goal? How are we going about doing it? Well, we're joining up with some people and we're all working together to build something that is going to last. It's going to stand the test of time, right? In the Waite Smith, you actually have a mason and a monk and some dude who looks like he might be an architect or something. And the three of them together are bringing their respective skill sets to bring a vision to life. Now for you it feels subtler because it does feel like a contemplation. Whenever we're talking about pentacles, we're talking about energetic currency, and even with the previous interpretation that I was talking about there with the Three of Pentacles, that the idea of investment is always very present. So what we have here between the three cards, rather than it being a fuck sort of situation, it does feel like a gentle contemplation of where it is that you have chosen to invest your energy, the kind of people that you've chosen to invest your energy in too, and both the pain that has come in the past that has resulted from that, but also at the same time the pain that has sent you down a road where you have chosen to be involved in something like that. Now I have no idea actually off the top of my head how many planets are in retrograde at the moment, but I know Saturn is and I know Venus is. As of yesterday I think Venus is now in retrograde, I believe there's going to be a point in the next wee while where we have 7 planets in retrograde. And what is the purpose of a retrograde? It is to go over things again. It's to reassess. It's to reconsider. You know, did this work out? To reflect. Did this work out? Did it take me where I wanted to go? Or does it need some kind of work? Now, I think that this is an important clarification for you to be having with yourself on your energy, because there's, well, quite frankly, Taurus, there's a lot to do. Like, you have a lot to do. You've got a lot of things to build, and you need to make sure that all of your energy is going in the right direction. I mean, the other way of looking at the Three of Pentacles is the degree to which you've been pulling, you know, with yourself and pulling away from yourself. You know, bits of you working to you know, a different set of schematics. Your subconscious wanting one thing, your conscious mind wanting another, and the pull in different directions that sometimes entails, because the devil is usually in the mix there somewhere. You know, what is it that you're afraid of, and is it really worthy of your fear? I think for the overwhelming majority of you, Taurus, you're seeing the pattern, you're seeing the consistent pattern, but you're also witnessing what it is that has sat behind that. Like I said, this Three of Swords doesn't feel like a new thing to me. It feels like a contemplation of an old thing. I do just want to pull out this Wild Unknown Tarot. Tell me about the Three of Swords, please. Oh, goodness. Wow. Talk about bullseye, Taurus. Literally straight through the middle. We've got the Three of Swords again. And we've got the Ten of Swords. This is this is certainly difficult situations that have ended, but what is really looking to complete now is your mindset around it, right? What it is that at the time you took from that, and how it coloured everything that you did thereafter. But how it created a particular kind of mindset, and maybe it was one that fed your internal devil over and over again. You know, anything that had you in a state of fear, you know, a state of humiliation, a state of betrayal. Sorry, I've got this like pet spider now who at the same time every night just kind of descends in a distinctly non-mammalian fashion, and it catches my eye every single time. I'm like, fucking hell, but it's fine, it's on the other side of the glass. She's just swinging around, actually. She looks like she's having a lot of fun upside down. Anyway, whenever the swords are involved, it is about the mind. It isn't really about the heart. It's about the truth entering here. And I think it's actually the perception of what those swords actually mean to you. Now, in the first instance, this could have led to an escalation of discomfort in what it is that you have noticed about yourself. But I do I do feel that it's from a more contemplative place than a place of punishment. Right? This is not you taking a stick out and beating yourself with it. It's kind of like, you know, what we've been talking about. And indeed, Taurus, what you have been practicing for the last 3 years is getting to that place of being able to observe something without being terrified by it, or, you know, or using it as yet another tool, you know, for the inner critic to start, you know, an interesting form of torture on you about, right? We're not feeding the anxiety, we're not feeding the overthinking or any of those kind of things. It's actually like, well, what has hurt me and why? And it was kind of logical that would hurt. Am I going to continue to carry that around with me? I don't think so. Because when I carry it around with me, the devil gets stronger. And then I get stucker. And I think the last thing that you're interested in, Taurus, is in being stuck. Because there's altogether a world of difference between being rooted and grounded and being stuck in place. And I think that you are beginning to work out the difference between those two things. So likely it is that you might be casting your eye, or you have been casting your eye over your network, the people that you know, the people with whom there has been some sort of shared investment, whether that was financial or otherwise. I'm really talking about the investment of your time and your energy. And wondering whether any of those people need to stay. Most of them will, and that's all good. But looking at the way that you have functioned, I think this is really, really important. Like, it's not just about what you felt. It's not just about what you did or invested in. It's like why you went that way. Because I think there might have been one or two situations that you haven't quite been able to put in the right place in your head, and now it makes sense. It's like, well, somebody who's felt this and this and this obviously will be looking for a situation that is like this, because the subconscious has been in control for a long time, or even the devil has been in control. But because everything that you are doing is much more conscious now, very much looking not to replicate those same situations again. The Queen of Swords and the Nine of Pentacles, I feel like, are an absolutely beautiful addition to this reading, because the Queen of Swords is looking at things objectively. She is looking for the sense in everything. You notice that she only has the one sword, where these cards have many, and I'm afraid Swords is one of those suits where if you've got more than one, you are really over-egging it. Like, you need to strip it down to essentially what is the core truth of the matter. But the Queen of Swords is a very cool, level-headed energy of dealing in facts, and I think that you are able to strip away a lot of the emotion of the, the things that you've experienced in your life, and simply look at the swords and go, okay, no, I understand, that makes sense. And once it makes sense and you can put it in the right place in your head, it's not draining your energetic resources anymore. You are actually showing up fully present. I meet a lot of clients and they really do hope that, they've done enough work and now they can just kind of sit back on the laurels and enjoy the rest of their lives. And I just don't think that life works like that. I think that for every breath that you take, there is more work that you can do. There are more things that can be released. There's deeper insights that can be had. And so, like I said at the beginning, you might be kind of sick of this kind of work here, but I don't feel like it's battering you over the head. We've kind of got to this place that I've referred to many times over the last 4 years, where you can do this stuff on the fly. You don't have to sit down with a journal and spend 6 months emptying your head and then trying to work out what it all means, or analysing your dreams or anything like that. It's kind of like, well, this thing happened and this is how I feel about it. Now, it's becoming much more measured, much more balanced, and what I like about that, it means that you're filling up all the gaps in your bucket. Every move is conscious, and you are beginning to invest more of yourself rather than what is expected of you, which could be a very different thing altogether. And you're doing it because you want to. You're not doing it because you feel you need to. So when we come to your current energy, we have the Eight of Cups, and this follows on beautifully from the cards that we've seen here, because as each thing is observed and as each thing is made sense of, so it can be processed and seen in context. And I think this is really important. Like, I mentioned this in another reading and I can't remember whose it was off the top of my head. I can't even remember if it was this month or last month, actually. But I made the observation that too often when people are going into, work, particularly personal work, and particularly when it involves relationships or breakdowns of relationships and things like that, if one is invested in the idea of self-work, one comes across this idea of forgiveness and acceptance. And too often what happens is people hurriedly try and take responsibility for literally everything, and then they try and skip a step and go straight to acceptance and straight to forgiveness. But because they've skipped a step, they haven't actually done the work properly, and they end up kind of going around in this cycle where they want to forgive, but they're full of emotion, and some of that emotion is really negative. Sometimes it's really, really bleak. And the last thing that energy wants to do is forgive people and be compassionate and move on. It's like, no, there's a fucking problem here. And the more that one struggles to reach that state of acceptance and forgiveness, the more then it becomes yet another tool for self-flagellation. And so the cycle feeds, and despite the best of intentions, you end up spoon-feeding the devil literally all of your, lovely nectar. I think what's going on here, certainly in these preceding cards, is that you haven't tried to skip the step. The processing of a situation requires in its first instance an acknowledgement of it and all of the emotions that go with it too, because let's not forget, although the swords, the Three of Swords is a swords card, there is the implication of emotion with it, and the implication being that emotions must be felt, they must be allowed to pass through us. And I think when you try and skip the step of allowing the release of emotions, you can't really get comfortably to a place of forgiveness. Not and really feel it. Because those emotions exist in you for a reason, and some of them, all of them, will have a very good reason for feeling the way that they do. So, I'm sure she won't mind sharing that. I have a Taurus client who said to me a few weeks ago, and she's a lovely, gentle woman, right? Really, really gentle woman. And she said, I just realised I'm a really angry fucker inside. And I was like, good. I am glad that you've come to that realisation, because that's an important part of the process. I mean, there's the spark of self being, a wrong has been done to me, and I have had correspondingly some sort of reaction to it. Well, rather than, and the thing that really upset this woman was, she was like, but I don't want to put anger out into the world. I don't want to release that as it is in its raw form back into the world. I want forgiveness and love. And it's like, well, you have to acknowledge the emotions first. You have to actually allow the emotion to move through you. And I think what you've been doing is kind of contextualizing a lot of stuff, right? Helping yourself understand it. And then coming to the realization that obviously you would feel that fucking way. Obviously you would feel like things were difficult. Obviously you would feel like you had been abandoned or rejected or humiliated or any of these things. Like, that was an absolutely natural response. And I'm not talking about the things that happened yesterday or last week or something like that. I'm talking about the things that happened early on in childhood, which have then seeded this cycle that you have been sat in for a very long time, and what you have been very earnestly working away at for 3 years to remove. I think it is the skipped step that's being reintroduced into the equation here. Because what I really, really like about this card in the Knights on Tarot, and it's, I just fucking love this deck anyway, is that rather than seeing someone, putting on the boots and the cloak and grabbing their stick and going like, fuck this, I'm off, which is what it looks like in the Waite Smith, what we've got is something here. If you just imagine for a second, having a set of scales around your neck like that, and then having 8 cups divided between the 2 scales, and each of those cups was filled with emotion, whether that was a good emotion, TM, or a bad emotion, Nevertheless, it's emotional. It weighs you down. It weighs on the back of your neck. If you've ever tried to carry anything like that, you know what that feels like. Before you know it, you start to stoop. And I think Taurus as a sign has stooped for quite a long time. Like, hopefully this last 3 years has seen things begin to turn around for you, because you're taking up space. You're not standing on your tippy hooves anymore. You're breathing into the space that you are supposed to occupy. But the thing that I really love about this is how we're seeing all of the liquid in the cups, the water, which is actually the true representation of emotion in the tarot. The cups are just the vessels. You're seeing it all evaporate. You're seeing it all just dissipate like smoke. This is the point where you realise that those emotions have served a purpose, but now you acknowledge them, you can release them, and you can let them go. And it actually isn't forced, Taurus. It just does it by itself. And this is so very important, because the attempt to try and leap to forgiveness, the attempt to try and leap to being a person who puts just, love and light and all that stuff out into the world, is hindered by someone who cannot turn that energy around and apply it to themselves. Your shadow wishes to be acknowledged. It wants to come in from the cold. It wants to know that you recognise why there's a reason that it's been here, and there's a reason why it's been holding on to the emotion, and it's actually a part of you. And it's saying, hey, can we be integrated now? And when that happens, little bit by little bit by little bit, forgiveness and compassion are the natural bedfellows. They just flow instantly from that state. You don't have to force it. You don't have to push it to be so. It just is what it is. Because the emotions that kept you bound to a situation have been released. The binds have been released. The thing that kept you trapped and stuck and fearful for the longest time has been released. Some of you might have been mulling over old relationships, old experiences of intimacy. You might have been looking objectively at where you felt like you showed up well, what was a success in the way that you were here, and what didn't go so well. But I actually think that these two cards here are talking about a change in the way that you can conduct your intimate relationships, because a lot of the triggers are being removed. A lot of the things that might have made you feel like you were cringing up inside, or made you feel you like, any of these things, they're being released. So these are not things that can be pressed, slammed, deliberately thumped, or inadvertently tripped over by someone who is close to you, or actually even by you. I triggered the shit out of myself this week, as always happens, actually, because I tumble over a bit of myself that I didn't notice was there and shouting for help. I trip over it and I go, oh my God, what is this? And then we deal with it and we move on. And we're not going to inadvertently trip over that again, because we've picked it up off the floor where it was cluttering everything up. Tell me about the Six of Wands and Two of Cups, please. There we go. Queen of Cups. And the Son of Wands. Interesting. You got Cancer and Sagittarius energy there, but fuck me. Look at that. You got the Eight of Cups at the bottom of the deck again. The Queen of Cups is receptive energy, right? It's what we take into ourselves, but it is also, I think, what we hold in ourselves. It's that classic place of reception is us, and I think that a lot of what you have held in yourself, whether or not you have considered yourself to be successful in relationships, and I would imagine almost all of you have some examples of where that hasn't been the case. But again, the Queen of Cups is the queen that most actively practices that forgiveness and that acceptance of things. She's emotionally nurturing, but she's pointing at this. She's like, it is so very fucking important for you to deal with this before you can get anywhere near this. Like, you see it right here. And so this Six of Cups and the Six of Wands and Two of Cups actually feels like a massive clarification of your energy, a purification of your energy when it comes to how you choose to show up, because it's showing up very much in the moment. That Sagittarian energy is very present based. It doesn't tend to be stuck in the past, and it absolutely doesn't tend to be too stuck in the future either. So catastrophizing, which is an absolutely future-centered anxiety, like this is the thing that is going to go wrong, eliminate it. It's not a problem, because we're here and we're in the moment. All those terrible things that happened in the past, we processed them, we saw them, we were forgiving to ourselves, we were compassionate about what happened, and then we let it go. And you're here in the moment again. Like, this is big work, Taurus. And Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus is in retrograde. And retrogrades don't have to be, like we associate with Mercury, kind of characterized by incredible inconveniences and almost kind of like those irritations, those vexations on the day-to-day when, like your technology fucking up or your car breaking or delays in travel and disruptions. I mean, sometimes it can be more of a meditative space. It can be, and it should be, I think. Maybe it's not with Mercury, but certainly, no, maybe it's with Mercury. With all the planets when they retrograde, it's kind of like sitting with it and being like, did this work? Did I do it right? Could I do it better? How would I change things? How can I change how I show up now? Can I show up right now? I think you're showing up for yourself. And this is huge because this changes how you show up for other people. So whether or not you are losing some people from your social circle, that will be true for some of you, or whether this Three of Pentacles is more about the internal process of one bit of you going one way and one bit of you going the other, it feels like you're pulling everything together and you're going in a straight line. What I feel is the excitement of the possibility of success beginning to return to you. And that's where you are right now, which is the most beautiful, receptive place to be. I mean, it's Eight of Cups. We've got 3 different depictions of the Eight of Cups here. Right? In this one, we've got the evaporation of the heavy emotion that has been yoked around your neck for a long time, right? Well, that's a welcome relief. We like that very much. Here, we have the actual smashing of the vessels that were holding that water. And they can't hold water anymore. They can't hold the emotion anymore. You've broken all of the glasses that were forged in childhood that said, it is okay for you to be treated like this. It is okay for you to put your needs last. It is okay for you to, subjugate your will to that of another person, even if it makes you deeply uncomfortable. And if it does make you deeply uncomfortable, then that means that there's something wrong with you. Each one of those glasses represented an aspect of you that can no longer hold the emotion. It's like it belongs somewhere else. These, it's like shitty glass that you bought from, I don't know, somewhere that sells very, very cheap cookware and kitchenware and whatnot. And you've gone, actually, I'm going to go off in search of my 9 cups. And my 9 cups are going to be made of something altogether more beautiful. They're going to be like, really, really fine glass, and they're going to be fluted in a really pretty way. They're going to actually hold half a bottle of wine in them if I want them to. They're capacious and they're beautiful. And we've got this depiction here. And I love this depiction here because I'm always talking about the house as a symbol of the self, to quote the daddy, Young, and all that kind of thing. And she's walking away from it. She's tipping the cup up and she's saying, I am no longer invested in this view of me. Oh, I just think she's just this stunningly beautiful woman. Look at it. Right? She's altogether too classy to be living in a house like that. And she's just realised it. She knows it. And a lot of the self-limiting beliefs, a lot of the emotional confusion that you have experienced as a Taurus is being let go, and you haven't had to force it. This is the big thing here. It's just happening naturally. And you've got the High Priestess sitting underneath there as well. It's been replaced with a knowing. And the knowing is of one's own value. The knowing is of the fact that you have outgrown this version of you and you're not prepared to wear that skin anymore. It's too fucking tight. It's misshapen. It's not beautiful. And whatever it is that you choose to wear, Taurus, it's going to be beautiful because it's a reflection of what's going on in here. This knowing in here is an emotional confidence that is starting to shine through. It's a way of being. It's a way of taking up space in the world. I don't know how many bulls you could fit in that place, but probably not many, and it would probably fall down really, really quickly. You need a cowshed that is purpose-built for you, full of all of the things that make you happy. And this just isn't it. And the biggest realization along all of this here is that whatever situation it was that caused you to forge these kind of shitty, badly made glasses, maybe they were just kind of all wonky and they just weren't pretty, or what you have been using for years, perhaps even decades, to hold your emotion. And maybe they've also been left outside for, I don't know, period of time. And you've had all sorts of things climbing in there, and there's fucking flies in there, and your caterpillars, crawled up the side of the glass and then fell into the wine, the water, whatever it is, a moth just got stuck in there. Maybe there's a couple of wasps floating around, and you're like, why am I keeping all of this shit? This is not me, this is not what I want, it's not who I am anymore. I'm letting it go. And we come to the Five of Cups in the reverse. This is what is coming towards you in August. It is an absolute stabilization of your energy. Now, when the Five of Cups shows up in the reverse, for me it seems natural to assume that it has first shown up in its upright. Now, we haven't seen it anywhere else here in the reading, but I would imagine this has been over here somewhere, right? It's been preceding all of that. It talks about bitterness, it talks about resentment, it can talk about bereavement and loss and the grief that comes with that. But I tend to think about it more as an overarching grief that comes from all of the ways in which we have been grieved over the course of our life. And as we've seen, it's been very, very difficult for you to let go, whether that is the way that people have treated you, whether it's the way people have abandoned you, humiliated you, whatever. Those situations have long since gone. But up until recently, you had perpetuated you'd allowed the situation to perpetuate by carrying around the emotion that was associated with that. And for whatever reason, August is no more. No more of that for me, please. I don't like it anymore. It's not actually... that's not true. I was going to say, it's not actually who I am, but it is who you are. It's been who you've been in an unprocessed state, but now you are processing. It's like, I recognize that these are a whole heap of emotions that I have had, a whole heap of even, emotional confusion and difficulties that I have had. Preceding card to the Five of Cups is the Fool. Have I been abandoned? Do I have abandonment issues? That's been coming up an awful lot. And I'll tell you what else has been coming up in a big way. The mother wound. That is being poked at the moment. But not to make you feel uncomfortable, to help you process it. Shine a light on it, observe it, and let it go. So this Five of Cups here, showing up now as it is in the reverse, is saying we've taken that unstable energy of the emotions that have been associated with something that has long since passed, but has continued in one way or another to inform our thinking and inform our emotions. And we're stabilizing it. The one purpose of a glass is to hold liquid. If you turn it upside down, it can't hold that anymore. I mean, if you go one further and you smash it up, it also can't hold those anymore. We're looking around for something new to invest in, something new to put a new set of emotions into. And it feels to me, like it feels to you, that you are really starting to get your power back. And this is funny because there have been times in the last few years where we've noticed that this has been something that's happened. It's like, oh, Taurus is really standing in their power. They're really taking something back. But there are grades to this. There are levels to it. And so in the first instance, when you really started this work in earnest at the beginning of 2020, whether or not it was, as a direct result of stuff that you had, say some sort of catalyzing event that had happened, or whether it was just, as somebody put it to me once, that Tauruses were addicted to self-work. I don't think you are addicted to self-work. I think you've got a desire to be authentic and just be the best fucking version of yourself as you ever have, as you are capable of being. But that place has always been arrived at from a more frightened origin point than anything else. It's like, I must be the best that I can possibly be, because if I'm not, people won't care for me, people won't love me, people won't let me be part of their tribe. And maybe I might open myself up to ridicule or loss, or any one of these things, right? So it's like the mind is hyper-focused on being this. And in some ways, that was an authentic desire, but it wasn't really a desire to show up authentically. It was a desire to manage other people's view of you. And that came from a place of grief. That overarching theme of grief that we were talking about. So having navigated through the first few levels of this, now we see you arriving at some really deep work. And it is understanding the subconscious motivations. And probably more than that, understanding the positive intent that has sat in the middle of all of the difficult stuff that you've been wrestling with for a long time. How your shadow has actually sought to protect you, how your inner critic even has actually sought to protect you, albeit in a very clumsy way, not a very evolved way. But, whatever age you were when you started putting these coping mechanisms in place, chances are it probably wasn't any older than 12. So there is going to be a clumsiness to it. But what I love is the fact that you are knowing better now. Now, I've always said to you, Taurus, like, the only person who is ever strong enough to hold you back is you. Leo might have a go, Scorpio might have a go, Aquarius I think probably couldn't be asked to have a go to have a head-to-head with you about anything. But those two signs might. But ultimately you are the bull. If it comes to a competition about who's going to be able to drag the heaviest thing, it's you, for sure. Who's going to be able to push over that wall? It's you. Your resolve and your strength of will are legendary. And you feel to me like you're coming to the realization that the only person who could have ever allowed you to feel vulnerable and low and weak, possibly, is you. And quite simply, you just ain't fucking about this life anymore. Not that. Not everything that is represented by that. There's something very, very strong, very self-possessed, something actually kind of regal about the way that you are showing up here, Taurus. And I'm not... Now, I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but it's there. The Emperor is here, and he's full of resolve. You can see him here on his throne, like he looks like he's ready to get up. And we don't usually see that in the Emperor card. Emperor cards usually is kind of sitting there like that, and he's got all of his armour on underneath. I mean, the implication is if he needed to go to war, he could, with all of his nice stuff over the top. But this one actually appears to be in the process of movement, and I like that, because the Emperor energy can be a little bit static sometimes, right? He's not leading from the front, he's leading from the back. He's doing all the planning and the strategy and all that kind of thing, right? And he's delegating. This dude looks very hands-on to me. And it feels like that is the way that you are approaching your life, regardless of whether you are actually doing, anything that involves movement at all. And I think a lot of you are, because we've got the Three of Wands there. I mean, some of you might be thinking about travel, but you're certainly thinking about the things that you can do. There's a very proactive energy that's showing up here, because quite simply, all of the glasses that you were having to navigate that contained like kind of icky things are either smashed or turned upside down. And if each of the 4 kings in the minor arcana are different aspects of the emperor, then you're not just working with the energy of the King of Pentacles, which is you. You also have the King of Swords, King of Wands, and the King of Cups all at play within you right now. The energy of change is blowing in the wind, and it's not change that's happening at you. It's not some sort of tower that you have to prepare for. This is you going like, right, what do I need to do to get my shit in order? Because I feel powerful enough to be able to deal with it all. Tell me about the Emperor, please. Thank you. King of Swords. The Tower. We speak most often about the Tower in terms of big universal energies that come and kick the shit out of us, frankly. It's a card that's ruled by Mars. And so it is associated with Aries. Here it is again. And Scorpio. And if we take the 2 meanings of those signs together, you know, what those signs are actually doing, what they represent. We've got Mars and Pluto actively going out of your way to transform. I mean, when the Tower hits as a kind of unseen energy that just kind of hints, like, fucks your life up for you, it's having to do something to respond and transform in the face of what's just happened. But I think you're about to go off in a different direction, Taurus, because there's nothing about the energies that are on the table here that are saying that something big is going to, lightning is not going to come and strike your tree. Instead, what we have here is somebody who is making a decision to do something that a year ago would have been absolutely incomprehensible as a course of action. Something that actually would have terrified the crap out of you. But look at the expression on these men's faces, on this man's face, on this owl's face here. I mean, they're fixing us with a look, and they're looking us directly in the eye. There's no fear here. There's resolve, there's determination, there's a willingness to act. And the transformation isn't of you at this point, because the transformative energy was all happening here. This instead is a transformation of circumstance. And as if to really hammer the message home, like we didn't get in enough already, we've got the Judgment card at the bottom of the deck. You are, I think, getting ready to make a life-changing decision. For some of you, it may involve relocation. That's possible. For some of you, it might actually be the relocation itself, something that you've been thinking about and actually go, no, I'm going to do this and it's going to happen. It's unlikely that a Taurus is going to move with that short notice, but maybe this is something that's been in the offing for a while, right? There's something here that you are doing, and you are doing it differently because you have chosen to do so. Now, I don't feel like this is... Like I said, I don't feel like this is a Tower moment that's coming at you. I feel like, and this is interesting because there was a similar sort of vibe that was coming up in the Pisces reading, it's more like an inspired pivot, a Tower-inspired pivot, right? I'm going to go and do a thing. I'm going to go off in this direction. I'm going to go and do something that nobody expects me to do, but it's a natural evolution of the steps that I have been taking, because I'm leaving this behind, I'm going towards this, and fuck me if I don't have to break some eggs to make an omelette. And I'm going to do it, and I feel absolutely fine about that. You know, this is very action-oriented, and it's all coming out underneath this stabilization of the energies that have held you back up until this point. So, sometime in August, this is going to be the result of the work that you have been doing. And it flows so beautifully. I do feel like some of you will wonder why you haven't done it before, and the reason that you haven't done it before is this, and maybe there's a little bit of that thrown in for good measure over there. But we're just not holding it anymore. And if you're not stuck in place by fear, then actually you've got a lot more freedom than you think you do. You know, we talk about the bulls as fixed earth. But there's nothing fixed about a bull. They meander all over his domain. I'm pretty sure if he doesn't want to be in a field anymore, he isn't. I once was driving down through my village, and I say village, it was a little hamlet in Yorkshire, so it was literally a hill that was like this, with just some houses peppered on the side, and I lived just on the only street, which was a dirt track that was there, right? And it was very windy, so I came down this big long hill like this, and you go around the first bend, and as I came around the second bend, there was a bull in the middle of the road, and I was like, huh. I was in a Vauxhall Frontera at the time, which is a 4x4. It was a shoddy old thing, but it was a big car. And so I stepped on the brake and I pulled up, and the bull looked at me, and I looked at the bull, and I was like, "Are you going to move out of the way then?" And the bull just looked at me some more, and I was like, "How about if I just drive towards you really, really slowly? Maybe you'll move." And it didn't move. And I ended up being about 4 feet away from the bull, which was about as happy as I was willing to go. And I ended up actually reversing up the hill and round the bend, and then round the next bend into a drive, and then turned around and went the long way round to wherever it is that I was going. My car weighed more than that bull did, but there was no way that bull was fucking moving. The look in the eyes of the owl, the look in the eyes of the emperor here, it's a look I recognise, and it's that bull right there. What I want to say is Carpe Diem here, Taurus. That's what I feel like you're coming to. Carpe Diem. Seize the day. And I think a lot of that comes from this Sagittarian energy here, right? It's being present. It's like, I can do things now. I can build for the future. I can invest in foundations. I do that very, very well. But I can also be here right now. And right now, what feels good to me is going off 90 degrees from where everybody expected me to go. And I have decided to do this. This is my idea, and I'm going to see it through. Carpe Diem. This is really exciting. I'm going to go over to the extended now. And crack my back like that. If you would like to join me, you're very, very welcome. You can either come over to Vimeo and watch it there, or you can come over and join Circle and watch it there. It's entirely up to you. If neither of those are of interest to you, then the TLDR of this is everything that you're working on at the moment, even if it might feel a little bit like, oh, there's another thing and another thing and another thing. The way that you're processing through it is creating space, and this is the important thing. And wherever space is created, something new comes in. And I think that you're creating sufficient space around you that you're actually coming from a place of safety in here, where you can go, actually, Carpe Diem. I'm going to go and do that thing. And literally nobody in the world is going to be able to stop you, Taurus, because that's where you're headed. Your mind is made up, which I think is very, very exciting. As a fellow fixed sign, I sit on the sidelines and give you a clap. Because you feel, to me, like you feel in control and powerful. And there's nothing egocentric about it. There's nothing dictatorial or, domineering about it. It's just, I am sovereign and I'm going to do my thing. I am a bull, not a cow. I like this very much. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.